Hello, and welcome to the journey of science and sleep. Let your mind set aside the daily noises for a while. Let the pace of life slow down and drift with me into a quieter space. Tonight, instead of the familiar planets shining brightly in the sky, we will turn toward the forgotten worlds, hidden on the distant edge of the solar system. There, in the still darkness, untold secrets are still waiting. If you also find peace and fascination in this gentle adventure, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us until the end of the journey. Who knows? The final moments may be where you discover something that truly touches your soul. When we think of the solar system, most of us often only picture the 8 large planets orbiting the sun like giant dancers in an ancient waltz. But the truth is far more complex and fascinating. Beyond Neptune's orbit, and even in the space between Mars and Jupiter, countless small worlds exist that humanity hardly ever mentions. They are the forgotten planets, silent yet precious fragments keeping the memories of the solar system's birth. Imagine yourself wandering into a quiet region of space where sunlight is no more than a faint dot in the distance. There, some celestial bodies rotate so slowly that a single day on their surface is longer than a human lifetime. They are neither dazzling nor wrapped in thick atmospheres, but it is precisely this silence that makes them stone and ice journals, preserving every detail of the earliest days. One of these remarkable worlds lies between Mars and Jupiter, the region known as the asteroid belt. Among countless endlessly spinning fragments of rock, there is one celestial body once hailed as a true planet, Ceres. In the early 19th century, when astronomers first observed it moving across the starry sky, many believed humanity had discovered a new planet in the solar system. In textbooks, Ceres was once listed alongside Mars and Jupiter, like a small gem nestled between two giants. But that glory did not last. Just a few decades later, as more objects were discovered in the same region, Ceres was gradually demoted, erased from the list of planets, and relegated to an ordinary asteroid. To the public at the time, it almost vanished from memory. Yet modern science has restored part of Ceres's stolen status, the title of dwarf planet, and beyond that, it is regarded as the silent queen of the asteroid belt. What makes Ceres so fascinating is not only its size, accounting for nearly 1/3 of the belt's total mass, but also what lies hidden within it. Unlike most asteroids that are dry and rocky, Ceres contains a massive amount of water trapped beneath its crust. Some scientists even believe that beneath that frozen surface may exist a briny subsurface ocean that once reached the surface in the past. If true, Ceres is not just a lifeless rock, but a dynamic world where geology still stirs, albeit slowly. NASA's Dawn spacecraft, when visiting Ceres in 2015, sent back images that astonished scientists: bright white spots glittering inside the Acator crater. At first, they seemed like mysterious lights in the dark, but later they were identified as sodium carbonate salts, traces of evaporated brine. This was evidence that liquid once, or still, flowed inside Ceres, and that there may even exist cryovolcanoes, not spewing hot lava, but cold mud and salty water. The largest icy mountain on Ceres, Ahuna Mons, stands like a solitary pyramid amid a dark plain. Though not as tall as Everest, its very presence is symbolic, a reminder that even in the smallest and quietest worlds, geological activity can occur. Evidence shows that Ahuna Mons is relatively young, only a few 100 million years old, a mere blink compared to the solar system's 4.6 billion year history. When picturing Ceres' surface, you see a nearly surreal landscape. By day, the sun emits only a pale glow, like a distant fading bulb. Temperatures never rise above 30 degrees Celsius. By night, the sky opens up, so clear and sparkling that millions of stars shine like diamonds on black velvet. There is no wind, no sound, only eternal silence and the slow drift of time. Ceres's gravity is so weak that it is only 3% of Earth's. If you set foot on its surface, every step would become a gentle leap. Drop a stone to the ground, and you would have to wait several seconds to see it land. Everything moves slowly, as if this place exists in a different rhythm, a silent symphony humanity has never fully heard. The strange thing is that it is precisely this in-between nature that makes Ceres a scientific treasure. It lies between two worlds, the rocky planets near the sun and the distant gas giants. If Jupiter had not grown too large and consumed most of the material, Ceres might have gathered enough mass to become a true planet. Instead, it stopped halfway, preserving its modest form as a living fossil of the solar system's earliest days. The minerals, ice, and carbon compounds on Ceres are the raw building blocks of life. Scientists even speculate that in the distant past, objects like Ceres or comets carried much of the water and organic compounds to Earth, helping form oceans, rivers, and rain. If so, then in silence, Ceres played a role in shaping our very story. Ceres' orbit also carries its own poetry. It completes a journey around the sun in about 4.6 years, slow and steady like the breath of the cosmos. It does not shine brilliantly, nor erupt dramatically. It simply exists quietly. Standing on Ceres' surface and looking toward Earth, you would see our small blue planet as nothing more than a faint, fragile star in the distance. In that moment, one realizes, in infinity, every world, whether great or small, holds its own value. Ceres, therefore, is not merely an asteroid or a dwarf planet. It is like a forgotten journal, telling of the earliest years of the solar system, of icy rains, violent impacts, and the patience of time. And when we learn to listen, those silent stories may change the way we understand the birth of Earth, of water, and perhaps even of life. Farther still, at the deep edge of the Kuiper Belt, a name once shook the entire scientific world: Eris. Discovered in 2005, it was not just another icy body, but the catalyst that forced humanity to change its view of the universe. It was Eris that sparked the heated debate that led to Pluto, the familiar ninth planet, being downgraded to a dwarf planet. From a faint object in the darkness, Eris shook an entire definition. Eris is nearly as wide as Pluto, and even slightly heavier, leaving many astronomers puzzled. If Pluto is a planet, then why isn't Eris recognized as one? And if Eris must be counted, then hundreds of other celestial bodies out there might also demand a place on the list. Its appearance forced the scientific community to redraw the boundary between planet and not a planet. In that sense, Eris is the troublemaker of the solar system. Yet if we set aside academic debates, Eris itself remains an incredibly fascinating world. It orbits the sun on a very distant, elongated path, taking 557 Earth years to complete one revolution. At such a distance, the sun shines no brighter than an ordinary star, a faint ember in endless night. The surface temperature of Eris drops to about 240 degrees Celsius, cold enough for nitrogen or methane to freeze into rock-hard ice. Through a telescope, Eris appears as a pale white dot, but don't let that modest appearance fool you. Its surface may be covered with a fine layer of methane ice, reflecting sunlight so strongly that Eris glitters like a crystal adrift in darkness. If you could stand there, you would see the pale ground beneath your feet, as if covered in eternal snow, while above, the sky is pitch black and scattered with so many bright stars that it feels as though you could reach out and touch them. Eris also has a companion. A small moon named Dysnomia quietly orbits it. Dysnomia is not large, but it is the key that allowed astronomers to estimate Eris's true mass. It is like a loyal companion, circling Eris in a slow rhythm over millennia, highlighting the loneliness of this dwarf planet. What is special about Eris is not only its size or distant orbit. It reminds us that the solar system still holds open questions. Could there be even larger worlds drifting out there, hidden in the deep darkness? If Eris can exist so far away, what prevents a true ninth planet from lying even farther beyond? It was Eris that planted that curiosity in humanity's mind. And then, when we move away from Eris and gaze farther still, the picture becomes even more elusive. Beyond the Kuiper Belt, scientists suspect a vast region called the Oort cloud. There, no longer just isolated dwarf planets, but an endless sea of ice and rock stretches across trillions of kilometers. The Oort cloud is like a giant shell encasing the entire solar system, a reservoir of potential comets, where icy fragments wait for millions of years only to one day be hurled inward and blaze across Earth's sky as dazzling streaks. If the theory is correct, the Oort cloud is the birthplace of majestic comets, those unexpected visitors carrying secrets of the earliest times. Each time a comet blazes near the sun, it may be a fragment from that distant storehouse, traveling billions of kilometers just to visit us for a fleeting moment. Then it vanishes again into darkness, leaving behind questions about the origins of water, of life, and of Earth itself. In a sense, forgotten worlds like Ceres, Haumea, Makemake, or Eris, and even the Oort cloud are like fragments of ancient memory. They are remnants that never became planets, living fossils of the formation process. Small, faint, silent, yet carrying within them the answers to the greatest questions. Where did we come from, and how much of the universe still remains unseen? Imagine yourself there, on one of these icy worlds. Gravity is so weak that a single jump could send you soaring dozens of meters. The sun in the sky is just a faint dot, and all around you is absolute darkness, dominated by countless stars. There, loneliness is no longer frightening but becomes a sublime silence, a reminder that even in the most distant corners, the universe is still whispering its story. When we return from this imagined journey, we may realize no world is truly forgotten. They are only waiting for humanity to look up, to broaden its gaze, and once again listen to the echoes from distant planets. And it is precisely such journeys of imagination that give us something precious: humility before the vast universe and a curiosity that never fades. Sedna is unlike any other world we have ever known. Named after the icy sea goddess in Inuit mythology, it evokes a sense of remoteness, coldness, but also majesty and mystery. From the moment it was discovered, Sedna puzzled astronomers. They did not just see a new dwarf planet, but a world dwelling at the edge of space where humanity had only thought of in theory until then. Sedna's orbit is one of the greatest mysteries. While most other dwarf planets circle the Sun in a few hundred years, Sedna takes 11,400 Earth years for a single revolution. This span of time is long enough to cover the entire history of human civilization. From when the first pyramids rose on the sands of Egypt to the era of spacecraft today, Sedna has only moved a small fraction along its enormous orbit. This makes Sedna an eternal witness of time, quietly following the rhythm of the cosmos, regardless of the rush and change on Earth. Strangely, its orbit does not fit neatly within the Kuiper Belt, nor does it truly belong to the scattered disk. Instead, it seems to drift in an intermediate region, a hazy space not yet clearly defined, perhaps a bridge to the Oort cloud, thought to be the reservoir of countless distant comets. Why is Sedna there? What pushed it so far away? These remain among the questions that astronomers have debated for years. One hypothesis suggests that Sedna was once pulled off course by a wandering star during the early days of the solar system, when the sun still resided in a dense young star cluster. Another hypothesis proposes that the gravity of an undiscovered giant planet, Planet 9, thrust Sedna into this unusually elongated orbit. If true, Sedna is not just a forgotten world, but also an important clue leading to an even greater discovery. In appearance, Sedna carries a striking distinction. Through spectral observations, it has been found to have a characteristic deep red color, even redder than Mars. This red hue comes from tholins, complex organic compounds formed when cosmic radiation interacts with ices such as methane and nitrogen. Tholins are not life, but they are considered the first building blocks in the chemistry of life. On Sedna, the tholin layer has accumulated over millions of years, like a faded red cloak evoking ancient age. When we look at Sedna, we do not just see a celestial body, but also the primitive chemical history of the solar system. Temperatures on Sedna are so harsh they are almost unimaginable. Thermometers there would always read around 9,240 degrees Celsius, near absolute zero. With no thick atmosphere to retain warmth and no strong internal heat, Sedna is a frozen sphere adrift in darkness. From such a distance, the sun is no more than a tiny star, only slightly brighter than the others. A day on Sedna, if it can even be called a day is like an eternal winter night, where light is never enough to drive away the darkness. Imagining yourself standing on Sedna's surface, the scene would be surreal. The pitch black sky is scattered with countless stars shining far more clearly than on Earth, since there is no atmosphere to blur them. Each step would feel light, for Sedna's gravity is only a fraction of Earth's. Beneath your feet, the ground is as hard as ice rock, coated with a thin layer of frost glowing faintly red. No sound echoes, except for your breath. The silence is so deep that one might feel time itself has nearly stopped. Though distant and silent, Sedna holds immense significance for expanding our understanding. It reminds us that the solar system does not end at Neptune or the Kuiper Belt, but stretches farther, into frontiers where human imagination once stopped. Each celestial body, like Sedna, is a fragment in the grand mosaic of the solar system's origins. If Sedna is indeed influenced by an undiscovered giant planet, it may be the red thread guiding us to one of the greatest discoveries of this century. What makes Sedna special is not only its remoteness, but also its endurance. While large planets like Earth are constantly reshaped by tectonics, volcanism, and weather, Sedna has preserved its primordial face for billions of years. It is like a time capsule, conserving the early conditions of the solar system, waiting for humanity to read the pages of history hidden beneath its frozen surface. Thinking of Sedna brings a strange comfort. Though small and far away, it still exists, drifting silently in the darkness, as a reminder that the universe is always larger than we imagine, and that sometimes the quietest worlds hold the loudest answers. Sedna is the very symbol of the forgotten planets, not noisy, not prominent, yet holding the keys to understanding the formation and evolution of the entire solar system. It does not need brilliant light to draw attention. It is precisely its silence, its distance, and its ancient red hue that are most captivating, compelling us to look up toward the frozen frontier and ask, how many secrets are still waiting for us out there? In the silence of the Kuiper Belt, Orcus and Vanth are like a mysterious duet. A primary world and a satellite revolve around each other, bound by an invisible thread of gravity, evoking the companionship we often see in ancient myths. What makes Orcus special is not only its mirrored orbit of Pluto, but also the way it reminds us that the universe is rarely monotonous. Instead of just the large, familiar planets, there are countless strange pairs, binary systems, and complex relationships beyond imagination. Vanth, the redder satellite, may have been born from a massive collision. Another possibility is that it once wandered independently in the cold depths of space before being captured by Orcus in its gravitational trap. Whatever its origin, today it has become a loyal companion, orbiting Orcus steadily every 10 days. If you were standing on the surface of Orcus, the sky would be adorned by a large, dark red sphere, hanging almost motionless. Conversely, if you were on Vanth, Orcus would appear as a colossal black mountain covering part of the sky. These two small worlds seem to tell a silent love story, wordless but enduring over billions of years. Orcus is not alone in its strangeness. The Kuiper Belt is like a hidden treasure chest containing thousands of celestial bodies, each name opening a new story. One of them is Haumea, a dwarf planet that amazes even seasoned astronomers. Unlike any other planet, Haumea is stretched into an elongated rugby ball shape, spinning so rapidly that its form is distorted. It takes only about 4 hours to complete one rotation, a dizzying speed compared to any other distant world. This rapid spin is not just a dry statistic. It is the reason why Haumea looks like an elongated gem, reflecting the cold sunlight from the dense layer of ice covering it. That unusual brightness was what helped astronomers recognize its existence in the early 21st century. Haumea's surface reflects nearly twice as much light as most other objects in the Kuiper Belt, suggesting it is coated with a layer of pure water ice, gleaming white like freshly fallen snow. But Haumea does not spin alone. It has at least two moons, Namaka and Hiyaka, named after goddesses in Hawaiian mythology. These two tiny satellites add another layer to the story of origins. One hypothesis suggests they were born after a colossal impact billions of years ago, when another body struck Haumea, ejecting icy fragments. The scar from that event may be the very reason Haumea spins so fast. The ejected fragments, instead of vanishing, gathered to become moons. And indeed, astronomers have discovered a group of small celestial bodies in the Kuiper Belt with orbits and characteristics similar to Haumea, as if they were siblings born from that very collision. If Orcus and Vanth are a quiet duet, then Haumea and its moons are a whole family spinning together in space. From afar, they resemble a miniature planetary system, replaying the process by which larger planets in the solar system were formed. Looking at them, scientists see a scaled-down version of what happened on a massive scale billions of years ago, when debris collided, merged, and separated to become complete worlds. Interestingly, Haumea is also surrounded by a narrow ring, one of the few objects beyond Saturn found to have such a structure. This ring, a few hundred kilometers wide, may be the remnant of that ancient collision or the result of icy fragments breaking off from its surface. When the faint sunlight strikes, the ring shimmers like a silver band, highlighting the uniqueness of this small world. Because of all these peculiar features, Haumea has become one of the most fascinating dwarf planets in the Kuiper Belt. It not only raises questions about the diversity of distant celestial bodies, but also emphasizes that the universe never follows a rigid pattern. While Earth, Mars, or Venus are nearly perfect spheres, Haumea reminds us that other worlds can be distorted, irregular, and still exist within their own balance. At a distance of more than 6.4 billion kilometers from the Sun, Haumea slowly orbits the distant source of light, taking more than 280 years to complete a revolution. On its surface, sunlight is so faint that if you stood there, the sky would never truly brighten. Instead, it would feel like an endless winter's day, with weak light filtering through the ice, making the whole world resemble a frosty jewel lying in darkness. But Haumea's beauty lies not only in its shape or its moons, it also lies in the message it carries. Just like Sedna or Eris, Haumea shows that forgotten worlds, a distant edge of the solar system, can teach us much about ourselves. The collision that once shaped Haumea may be a small-scale version of what Earth experienced when the moon was formed. Its delicate ring may hint at how giant planets like Saturn developed their magnificent systems of rings. Each celestial body in the Kuiper Belt, from Orcus and Vanth to Haumea and its icy family, is like a note in the ancient symphony that the solar system has written over billions of years. They are small, silent, and distant, but in that silence they whisper of origins, of chaos, and of the universe's miraculous capacity for renewal. And in each whisper, they remind us that even in the farthest corners of darkness, there are always things worth listening to. Farther out in the dark sea of the solar system, where the sun's light is reduced to a faint silver streak, a deep red world drifts slowly along its endless orbit. Gong Gong. The name sounds like an ancient echo, taken from the Chinese water god of mythology, who once shook the cosmos with his fury and tilted the pillar of heaven. The name is both majestic and fitting, for that small world itself seems to bear a crooked stance, as if leaning into the silent music of space. Gong Gong was discovered only in 2007, but it immediately planted in scientists' minds questions larger than its modest size. With a diameter of about 1,200 kilometers, it is large enough to be considered a dwarf planet, yet what sets it apart is its mysterious dark red color. While most icy worlds out there reflect light in bluish or silvery tones, Gong Gong stands out like a crimson mark among the cold snow. The cause comes from tholins, complex organic compounds formed when cosmic radiation strikes a methane ice surface. Over billions of years, this process has transformed the pristine ice into a wine-red cloak. It is a hue rarely seen among dwarf planets, making Gong Gong a puzzling gem in the Kuiper Belt's treasure trove. Each time astronomers capture its spectrum, it feels as though they are gazing into a historical record so long it nearly defies human imagination. Gong Gong orbits the Sun with a cycle of nearly 554 Earth years. One of its years is longer than 5 of ours combined, meaning that since humans first invented writing up to the present day, Gong Gong has yet to complete a single orbit. The thought reminds us that there are worlds moving to rhythms so slow that human history is but a fleeting blink. But Gong Gong does not drift alone. It has a small moon named Xiangliu, after the many-headed creature of myth often associated with chaos and floods. Xiangliu circles Gong Gong every 25 days, like a loyal companion that also makes the system more complex. Thanks to the moon's presence, astronomers have been able to measure Gong Gong's true mass and confirm it is heavy enough to maintain a near-spherical shape. Without Xiangliu, the crimson world would remain a vague dot, reluctant to reveal its secrets. If one day you could stand on Gong Gong's surface, the sight would be overwhelming. The sun would shine no brighter than a distant star, suspended in the pitch-black sky, casting a faint red glow across the icy ground. Gravity, only about 1/10 of Earth's, would make each step feel like a floating leap. The surface, coated in reddish-brown tholin interspersed with pale patches of ice, would look like an enormous abstract painting. And if you lifted your eyes, you would see Xiangliu, a small orange-red light, slowly carving an arc across the heavens. Worlds like Gong Gong spark not only scientific curiosity, but also philosophical questions. Why does the universe reserve such a remote place for a small planet, leaving it to orbit in silence for billions of years? Perhaps every world, large or small, plays a role in the cosmic symphony. In Gong case, its deep red hue is like a low note, providing contrast to the silvery brightness of Haumea or the distant blue of Neptune. Strangely enough, Gong may also conceal an underground ocean, much like what is suspected on Orcus or Quaoar. Beneath its frozen crust, its rocky core may still emit a trace of radioactive heat, keeping some water from freezing completely. If this hypothesis proves true, then even in the most distant and frigid places, potential life cannot be entirely ruled out. The thought that under its crimson ice may lie a dark ocean, forever hidden from sunlight, makes Gong both frightening and alluring. In mythology, the god Gong tilted the heavens, causing rivers and mountains to shatter. The world that bears his name also evokes a sense of skewness, an off-kilter orbit, an unusual color, a journey spanning centuries. It is like a solitary traveler, drifting at the edge of the solar system, seeking no attention. And in that silence, Gong becomes unforgettable. Compared with Pluto, a world that stirred human hearts with photos from New Horizons, Gong may seem less striking. Yet it reminds us that not all worlds need heart-shaped planes on their surfaces to touch human emotions. Sometimes persistence, silence, and a deep red shade enduring for billions of years are enough to inspire awe. Just imagine, a few hundred years from now, when our descendants might send probes to visit it, they could discover things no one expected. A cracked surface revealing signs of young geology, a hidden ocean whispering beneath the ice, or simply a crimson world standing still like an icy statue, telling the tale of the universe's patience. In the grand symphony of the solar system, Gong is not the pounding drum or the blaring horn. It is the low, sustained note, keeping rhythm for a music that never ends. And when you think of it that way, you realize that even the most forgotten, distant, and silent worlds can hold a profound beauty, reminding us of the universe's diversity and infinity. Far beyond the familiar orbits where sunlight is nothing more than a faint mist, small worlds still quietly circle, known to few. In that silence, there is a dwarf planet named Salacia, called after the Roman goddess of the sea. The name itself feels like a whisper, evoking the image of vast oceans, but not the blue seas of Earth, rather the ice seas and darkness stretching across the distant edge of the solar system. Salacia has a diameter of only about 850 kilometers, modest compared to Pluto, yet it holds a beauty of its own. This world is so dark it is nearly invisible. Only about 4% of the sunlight reflects back from its surface. To giant telescopes, it appears as nothing more than a faint, tiny dot, like a drop of water lingering on the infinite black curtain. It is this quietness that makes Salacia one of the most enchanting ghosts of the Kuiper Belt. Its surface is covered with ancient organic compounds, molecules imprinted by cosmic rays and the solar wind over billions of years. This cosmic lacquer has slowly turned the world into a black gem, faintly reflective, yet holding intact the memory of the dawn of time. Each molecule on Salacia's surface is like a frozen page of a diary, telling of the chaotic early days when planets collided and fought for a place around the sun. Salacia is not alone. It has a small moon named Actia, like a loyal companion, silently following its centuries-long journey. Thanks to Actia's presence, astronomers were able to measure Salacia's true mass and density. The results revealed that beneath that pitch-black ice, Salacia holds a significant amount of rock, evidence that it once went through violent stages of formation, gathering both heavy and light material from the ancient protoplanetary disk. If you could set foot on Salacia, you would see a sky filled with stars blazing brilliantly, sharper than anywhere on Earth, because there is no atmosphere to blur them. The sun would look like just a slightly brighter star hanging far above the sky. Actia would appear as a tiny, glowing dot, slowly circling, sometimes slipping away behind the frozen horizon. The weak gravity would make you walk as if in a dream, each step floating as though the very space itself encouraged slowness. And within that slowness, you would feel the true rhythm of the universe. Not far from Salacia, another world also circles in the darkness, Varuna, named after an ancient Indian deity linked with the sea and the night sky. But unlike the quiet Salacia, Varuna is a spinning dancer in the Kuiper Belt, With a diameter of about 650 kilometers, it is not large, but its rotation speed astonishes scientists. Only about 6 hours for one full spin. While Earth needs a day, Varuna spins so fast that centrifugal force has made it slightly flattened, turning its sphere into a distorted shape like a water balloon spinning furiously. Varuna's exterior also bears the marks of ice and organic compounds, but it is the dizzying rotation speed that makes it unique. On Varuna, a day and a night last only a few hours, the faint sunlight flickering quickly across the horizon, creating cycles of light and dark so fast that humans could hardly adapt. If you were there, you would feel as if you were standing on a giant spinning ride, where time is both shortened and stretched in strange ways. Though small and faint, Salacia and Varuna each carry their own stories. One world chooses silence, so dark it nearly vanishes from sight. The other spins rapidly, asserting its existence through speed and momentum. Both, in their own ways, are proof that the universe never repeats itself. It creates countless variations, from the crimson jewel Gong Gong to the black ghost Salacia, to the icy spinning top Varuna. These dwarf planets may never become destinations for exploration spacecraft in the coming decades. They are too distant, too faint, and promise nothing but ice. Yet their very existence reminds us that the universe is not only for the dazzling, it also holds quiet treasures, small but essential pieces that complete the picture of how the solar system was formed. When we look at Salacia or Varuna, we see not just cold lumps of rock, but also glimpses of the past. They are living relics, cosmic fossils, left behind from the chaotic dawn. If Earth, Mars, or Jupiter are grand movements in the cosmic symphony, then Salacia and Varuna are the rests. Not loud, not brilliant, but without them, the music would lose its depth. Perhaps that is the true beauty of forgotten worlds. They remind us that value lies not only in brilliance, but also in silence, endurance, and even in the small, nearly invisible motions. Far away at the hazy edge of the solar system, Cilicia still quietly circles with Actea, while Varuna spins endlessly like a cosmic top. And if we listen long enough, we will realize that these very worlds are playing a soft, profound melody, a melody the solar system would never be complete without. As we move away from the brilliant light of the inner solar system, space becomes like a dim ocean where icy islands float in the darkness. The Kuiper Belt emerges as a vast suburb of the planetary system, where sunlight is nothing more than a faint oil lamp in the endless void. Here, the small worlds do not compete for attention, nor do they burn fiercely. They simply exist, patiently orbiting the sun for billions of years, like silent witnesses of the primordial age. Each dwarf planet or icy body in this belt carries its own story. Ixion, with its resonance orbit with Neptune, is like a cosmic clock ticking steadily but seldom noticed. Huia, crimson and dark, evokes the image of a glowing ember left after a fire has burned out. Chaos, despite its name suggesting disorder, shows us that stability can persist even in the most distant regions. And Snow White, Baktwit, turns out not to be white, but tinged with a gentle pale red, as if the universe itself enjoys teasing human expectations. What is special is that these bodies, though small and quiet, are not at all monotonous. On their surfaces may be cracks from expanding ice, patches of varying colors from organic compounds altered by cosmic light. Some even have tiny moons accompanying them, forming lonely pairs in their endless journeys. They are like marginal notes in a thick book, but sometimes those very notes hold the clues to unlocking the larger story. And then, as astronomers observed more deeply, they began to notice something strange. The orbits of many Kuiper Belt objects seemed to show unusual alignment. Instead of being scattered randomly, they tilted toward a certain direction, as if pulled by an invisible hand. From this, the hypothesis of Planet 9 was born. If it truly exists, it would be an icy giant, several times the mass of Earth, lying hundreds of astronomical units away. Its gravity may have quietly orchestrated an entire symphony of small bodies, creating a hidden rhythm that the human eye has never noticed. Although no one has yet seen Planet 9, the idea of its existence brings a feeling both chilling and wondrous. It turns out that the map of the solar system we learn in books may only be the prologue. Beyond Neptune, that map fades, like a painting left unfinished. In the place where darkness overwhelms light, human knowledge has only brushed the surface, while most of the secrets remain hidden. If the inner solar system is like a bustling city with giant, radiant planets as skyscrapers, then the Kuiper Belt is the quiet suburb where old, simple houses still stand, unchanged through time. This region does not chase noise, but preserves a solemn air, as if protecting the ancient relics of the universe. The icy worlds here are like old belongings stored away in a warehouse, unnoticed, yet holding the primordial history that nowhere else retains. Just imagine, on some tiny body in the belt, if you could stand there, the sun would be nothing more than a faint star in Earth's sky. Warmth would be nearly gone. Beside you, perhaps no planet would be visible to the naked eye, only darkness and vast distances. The nearest neighbor might be millions of kilometers away. That loneliness makes these worlds even more mysterious, as if they exist beyond the borders of the reality we know. Yet within that solitude lies a strange allure. As our lives grow ever more hurried, these distant icy planets remind us that the universe can move to a far slower rhythm. Each of their orbits may take centuries, millennia, yet they are in no rush. They drift in infinite patience, like a reminder that not everything needs to be rushed. Not everything must be discovered immediately. This offers a profound comfort. We are not alone in patience. Out there, countless celestial bodies are still silently waiting for humanity to notice them. They are like unopened doors in an ancient house, always ready to reveal secrets to those patient enough to seek them. And perhaps it is precisely this quiet existence that forms the great beauty of the Kuiper Belt, a vast cosmic archive where every fragment, every dwarf planet helps tell the story of the solar system's formation and evolution. Think of this. The solar system map we know, with its 8 familiar planets, is only the tip of an immense iceberg. Beneath that dark water lies an entire vast population yet to be fully explored. Those tiny bodies, each one a fragment, may one day rewrite how we understand the place we live in. And someday, when stronger telescopes expand our vision, perhaps we will discover even greater secrets, even a hidden giant planet silently watching us from afar. Until then, Ixion, Huia, Chaos, Celestia, and countless others will continue their slow orbits like faint notes in the universe's immense diary. They do not promise noisy discoveries, but only invite us to listen to the silence. In that distant, cold void, we may find a simple lesson. The universe is not written only in light and sound, but also in patience, in darkness, and in the quiet things that have always surrounded us.